Hello learner, welcome to Manifested e-learning forum. My name is Emlyn Ngwiri. I'll be taking you through equity investment analysis, residual income valuation. And what we'll do in this lesson, we'll do the following. Means analysis. What we'll be doing in this lesson, we are looking at residual income valuation. Yeah. What we'll look at in this lesson, we'll look at the continuing residual income, and that is when the present value of future residual income is expected to continue into the future. How do we treat that? So we'll be looking at continuing residual income, continuing residual income, like that. And more specifically, we will look at the assumptions that fall under the continuing residual income. So we will look at the assumptions. We will also look at the treatment there, and then we will look at an example, example, like that. Once we have that concluded, then we will move ahead and look at the advantages and disadvantages of residual income valuation. There. So that is what we will be looking at in this final lesson. And without further ado, let's begin by looking at the continuing residual income. Continuing residual income. Let me explain it like this. When estimating residual income into the future, it becomes a bit of a challenge to estimate the present value of future residual income. That is when we now apply 4 assumptions that are going to cover that component of estimating the present value of future residual income. The first assumption is as follows. So we look at the assumptions. First assumption is residual income is expected to persist at its current level forever. So if we try and estimate the present value of future residual income, the assumption is that there will be what we call a persistence factor. A persistence factor will mean that the present value of future residual income will be equal to 1. And we will be able to shortly look at the treatment right over here, and then we'll also be able to try and look at an example there. So here is we will be able to assume that the persistence factor is equal to 1. So we say persistence factor is equal to 1 there. The persistence factor, I repeat again, the persistence factor is a factor that is applied, or that assumption that assumes that the present value of future residual income will continue like that into the future, like that. So number 2, the second assumption is that residual income is expected to drop, is expected to drop, we can say expected to drop to 0, like that. In this case, when the persistence factor, which we're saying we'll be able to denote it by a W there. When the persistence factor drops down to 0, then we will be able to apply the present value of, in order to calculate the present value of future residual income, what will happen? We will be able to look at the residual income, discount it against 1 plus R, like that, so that we can be able to add that component of perpetuity, there. So we can move on and say that the persistence factor is 0 in this case. Now, the third assumption that tries to explain the continuing residual income component is that residual income will be expected to decline in the long run to a constant level rate. So we say residual income is expected, we can say is expected to decline, yeah, to decline to a long run rate. In this case, we are saying the persistence factor will lie between 0 and 1. So we say into brackets persistence factor lies between 0 and, rather I can say 0 and 1. That. We will be able to look at an example to apply this. Now, the fourth assumption is that residual income is expected to decline to the long run ROE levels. As the residual income declines, the component of ROE, or return on equity, will also be able to decline concurrently. So we say residual income is expected to decline as ROE falls or declines, like that. So those are the 4 assumptions that constitute or that are applied in continuing residual income valuation there. So as I said, I'll just recap. I said that when trying to estimate the future residual income, estimating the future residual income will require usually within the financial services industry, it poses some challenges. So trying to estimate the present value of future residual income will mean that you have to apply some of these 4 assumptions. Either, number 1, residual income is expected to persist at its current level forever. That means the persistence factor is equal to 1. I'll be able to demonstrate that using an example. Then, second assumption is that residual income is expected to drop to 0. And that means that the persistence factor is just 0. In this case, the third case, residual income is expected to decline to a long run rate. Persistence factor lies between 0 and 1. So you can be able to have a component of, say, 0.4 and 0.6. It depends on what assumptions you're applying when conducting residual income valuation. The fourth assumption is that residual income is expected to decline as ROE falls. Now we come to looking at the treatment right over here. So we've done the assumptions there. So now concurrently, I'll be able to try and find a way how I could be able to put all of those 4 equations when trying to estimate the future or present value of future residual income, like that. We need to try and see as we try and correlate with the assumptions there. So the treatment, first of all, we're going to look at the treatment there. So treatment formula there. So in the first case, we are saying the residual income is expected to persist at its current level forever. So we're saying in case number one, we are saying the present value of continuing residual income, I'll denote it using Ri, is equals to, at time t minus 1, is given as Ri, residual income at time t, divided by R. How did we arrive at this? We are saying that Ri is discounted against 1 plus R. But now there needs to be a persistence factor, which I was saying is going to be denoted by W. This persistence factor W over here, we are saying is going to be equal to 1. Now, what happens when you slot in 1 right over here? Allow me to put 1 over here. You will see this is positive 1 and this is negative 1. So it just remains as Ri discounted against R, because that one and that one go. So that is what the analyst should be able to apply in the financial services industry there. So if I can wrap it, now we move on to the second treatment based on the second assumption, number 2 there. We're saying that the residual income is expected to drop to 0. The persistence factor in this case is 0. So we say the present value of continuing Ri at time t minus 1 is given as the residual income at time t discounted against 1 plus R. Yes, 1 plus R. So we are saying it's going to be Ri over 1 plus R minus 0. So what happens? 0 just goes away like that. So you remain with 1 plus R. And that's what we have right above over there. Assumption 3, now what we're saying is that the residual income is expected to decline to a long run rate, and the persistence factor lies between 0 and 1. So we are saying we now be able to put the component of the persistence factor as like so. So present value of continuing Ri at time t minus 1, right there, we can say is equals to Rit divided against 1 plus R minus W, like that. So I can write it properly there, excuse me, minus W, like that. So we say that the persistence factor in the third assumption may lie between 0 and 1. You could be given 0.6, you could be given 0.8. So that's when now we need to include the component of W there. Now, moving on to the fourth assumption, we are saying that residual income is expected to decline as ROE falls. So what happens is that we have assumption number 4. We say the present value of continuing Ri, or residual income, at time t minus 1, we first of all need to compute. Now, this present value of continuing residual income, which is expected to decline as ROE falls, we say we have PT minus BT there. This is the market price minus the book value there. Then you multiply by the residual income at time t, RIT, discounted against 1 plus R. 1 plus R there. Why? We are saying this PT minus BT is the PT represents the market price, and the PT, how do we get the market price? So PT is given as the component of the market price, and how do we get the market price? We get the book value multiplied by the forecasted present price to book value. So it's said this is just the book value, or we say it's just BT. We just say it is just BT. I'll explain all those components that multiplied by the forecasted price to book value. The forecasted price to book value. Forecasted price to book value. That's how you get the market price there. Remember, how do we get price to book value? The price to book value is given as price to book value you've been given the component of the price to book value component like that over there. So it's just the book value multiplied by that component gives you this component of the price. I don't know that I'm making myself clear. I'm saying the price to book value is under market-based price multiples, we had done price to book value. It's just the market price per share divided by the book value per share. If you go to that lecture where I was looking at the price to book value, you will be able to recall that we had said the price to book value is the market price per share divided by the book value per share. If you have that component given to you, or price to book value ratio, it will be X times over there like that. So to get the market price, it is just the book value multiplied by the price to book value component there. That's what we are saying over here. To get the market price, this component here is just the book value there multiplied by the forecasted price to book value component there in terms of multiples there. So that's what we are saying we get as the market price there. And now to explain based on the point on the fourth assumption there that the residual income is expected to decline as ROE falls. BT being the book value, we are saying that ROE is the component of return on equity. And when looking at the sustainable growth rate under this discounted dividend valuation, we had said the growth rate is given as B times ROE. The B times ROE is this B is what we're saying is the retention ratio, and then we are saying that the ROE is return on equity. The return on equity is given as net income over sales multiplied by sales over total assets times total assets over shareholders' equity. This one, please look at that lecture where we had explained how to get the ROE under discounted dividend valuation right there. So once we have done these equations over here, all that is left is for us to try and look at an example so that we can be able to apply those components or those assumptions that we've just looked at right here. So let's look at an example. X company is expecting an ROE or return on equity of 15% over each of the next 5 years. Its current book value is 5 per share. It pays no dividends and all earnings are reinvested. The required return on equity is 10%. Forecasted earnings in years 1 through to 5 are equal to ROE times the beginning book value. Calculate the intrinsic value of the company using residual income model, assuming that after 5 years, continuing residual income falls to 0. Now, which assumption are we trying to look at? We are looking at the second assumption right over here, that continuing residual income, we're saying residual income is expected to drop to 0 and the persistence factor is 0. So we go the corresponding formula. Present value of continuing residual income is equal to residual income over 1 plus R, like that. So we'll be able to apply that very shortly. So we need a table so that we can be able to try and explain how we get each component. So the table will be the year, be given as follows: the year. Then we have the earnings given to us there. Then we need another column that looks or tries to identify the ending book value, like that. Once we have the ending book value, I can see we've been given the ROE or return on equity, ROE. There, the component of ROE is given. Then the equity charge is given to us there. Then the residual income, RI. We're saying residual income given to us there. So we can slightly just put it down like this, drop down lines like that, so that we can be able to move systematically in trying to put the corresponding values across besides each other. So we have year 0. How many years are we going down? We've been told that for the next 5 years, so we have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right there. So the earnings, we have not been given the earnings, but we've been told that the ending book value, which is the third column right over here, has been given to us as how much? As 5 right there. That is the beginning book value there. The ROE at the beginning of the question has been given to us as 15%. So we're saying is 0.15, 0.15 constant. 0.15. That's, pardon me, right there. I need to put it beside each other, 0.15 and 0.15, like that. Now the equity charge is just the required return multiplied by the beginning book value. But we need to first of all fill in these components here, or these two columns right here. Now the required return on equity is 10%, and we've been told that the forecasted earnings, now the forecasted earnings in this first case over here, we're saying the forecasted earnings will be, it's the current year now, so next year, 1 year after that, these forecasted earnings in years 1 through to 5 are equal to ROE times the beginning book value. So it's just ROE times the ending book value right over here gets the earnings right over here, Now the ending book value in year 0 becomes the beginning book value in year 1. That's why we're saying it might seem that I'm not doing the correct thing, but when you multiply 0.15 by this ending book value, we get the forecasted earnings right over here, like that. So if we multiply that, we get the earnings very quickly. You can just fill in that column there. So it's 0.15 multiplied by 5, we get 2.55 there. Let me just confirm that 0.15 multiplied by 5, we get 0.75. Pardon me, 0.75. This is 0.75. Once we get 0.75, we are being told from the question that to get this forecasted earnings, it's just this component of the ending book value plus the earnings gives the ending book value. So in this case, we have 5.75, like that. Now, just as we have done it, we need to get these forecasted earnings. The forecasted earnings is just 0.15 times 5.75. We get that component right there. So get it like so, 0.15 multiplied by 5.75. We have 0.8625. 0.86. Let's put it like that. 2 decimal places for consistency purposes. Now 5.75 plus 0.86 plus 5.75, 6.61. 6.61 there. This times that, multiplied by 0.15, 0.99 plus 6.61, 7.60. This times that, so times 0.15, we have 1.14. Then plus 7.6, 8.74. That. Finally, we multiply times 0.15, 1.31, then plus 8.74. We have 9.71. 9.71 there. And we have filled these two columns as advised. Now we move on to get the equity charge. The equity charge is just the required return multiplied by the beginning book value, BT minus 1 there. We've already looked at that concept. So it's just required return. The required return as provided in the question, we have been given the required return of 10%. So 10% times the beginning book value. In this case, right over here, the beginning book value will be this 5. This is the ending book value for year 1. But the beginning book value, this ending book value in the current year becomes the beginning book value in year 1. So we need to get 10% of 5. So we're just saying 0.1 times 5 is 0.5. 0.5. Then 0.575, that, then 0.661, like that. I hope you're getting, we're just getting 10% of this value, 10% of this value, 10% of this value, like that. So here we're saying 0.760, and here 10% of that 0.874. I repeat again. To get the equity charge, it is just the required return multiplied by the beginning book value. The beginning book value for year 1 is this value here. So 10% of this gives that. 10% of this, we put it in year 2. 10% of this, we put in year 3, and so on and so forth until we get all of the equity charges up to year 5 there. The residual income now is just the earnings, this column minus the equity charge over here. We get that component there. So we have 0.75 minus 0.5, 0.25. These are the residual incomes now we are getting, the RIs. So now in the second case, it's just the earnings less the equity charge. 0.86 minus 0.575. 575. We have 0.285. Let's say 0.29, 2 decimal places, 0.29. There. Then 0.99 minus 0.661, 0.661, 0.33. There. 1.14 less 0.76. 0.38. Finally, 1.31 we less 0.874. 0.874. 0.436. 44 like that. So these are the residual incomes. Now we need to get the value of the company, of X company. We now need to get the beginning book value, and then we add the present value of future residual income. So we are saying the formula is the value of the share V0 we are getting is B0 plus RI1 over 1 plus R plus RI2 over 1 plus R plus, this is squared, pardon me, RI3 over 1 plus R3, and so on and so forth. So the beginning book value, this B0 refers to the beginning book value there. Now, if you allow me, I can wrap this side. So that we can proceed. Now, putting it all together, V0 is given as B0, the beginning book value, 5 plus, now we get the present value of future residual income, present value RI1, 0.25 over 1.1 power 1 plus we have 0.29 over 1.1 squared plus 0.33 over 1.1 cubed plus 0.38 over 1.1 power 4 plus 0.44 over 1.1 power power 4. I hope you understand why. We are saying this 0.44, we are assuming that the present value of future residual income, the continuation policy, what we had said in assumption, was it assumption 3? Assumption 2 rather. Assumption 2, we are assuming that the persistence factor is equals to 0. So we are saying that once we have that, we will be able to just apply what we've actually been told. That the residual income, this component of 0.44, we will be able to, let's say, assumption. Before rubbing this, I had said that the assumption, was it assumption 2? Yes, assumption 2. We had said that the residual income at time t is going to be discounted against 1 plus R, like that. But now the R will remain for period 4. That is exactly what we've done right over here. So how much are we getting for the residual income? Let's compute it very quickly. So I will just first of all add the present value of future residual income like that. So it's 0.25 divided by 1.1. We have 0.22. So V0 is equals to 5 plus 0.22 plus 29 divided by 1.1 squared, 0.24 plus 0.33 divided by 1.1 cubed we have 0.25, 5, yes, plus 0.26 plus we have 0.44 divided by 1.1 and power 4 like that is 0.3. Putting it all together, we have 5 plus 0.22 plus 0.24 plus 0.25 plus 0.26 plus 0.3, we have 6.27 like that. That is applying the second assumption. Once you've been told or once you've been informed that the persistence factor is assumed to be 0, you'll assume that the W component, we said RIT, discover again 1 plus R minus W, this is the persistence factor, this one equals to 0, so that means the residual income just discounts to or summarizes to RIT over 1 plus R alone, and that's what we've done over here, 1 plus R like that for the present, to add that component of continuity or perpetuity like that. Now let's look at an example that is also going to include say the first assumption or even the third assumption like that, so that we can be able to understand those assumptions there. Now we look at an example, still building on this concept over here. We will be able to just assume now. So this is a second example, but now we are still building on this. Suppose we change our assumption regarding X company, residual income after 5 years, to assume instead that it remains constant at 0.44 forever. Calculate the new intrinsic value of X. So we are saying that the W component or the persistence factor is equal to 1. And that one we are saying once it is equal to 1, we can be able to say that it is the assumption or the first assumption that we will be looking at. So we are saying in the first assumption 1, we had said that the present value of continuing RI will be RIT over 1 plus R minus 1. We are saying the assumption is that is going to be like that. So what happens? This condenses into RIT over R. So at this point over here, instead of getting 0.44 divided by 1 plus R based on the second assumption, we will just get 0.44 divided by R, which is, we are saying is 10%, which is 0.1 in this case. So what happens? We are saying that 0.44 divided by 0.1, what do we get? We just need to amend that part over here. This is the part that we are amending based on the second example, like that. So if you'll allow me, I can rub all of this because you already have all of the inputs on that other side there. So what do we have? So we have, this is what we are amending only, based on assumption 1. Residual income 1 plus R minus 1, so it comes to RIT over R there. So we're saying it is 0.44 divided by 10% is 0.1. So we have 4.4. So now this part right over here, we just put 4.4. So we say example 2, what happens is that persistence factor is equal to 0, rather is equals to 1, pardon me. So it's RIT over 1 plus R minus W, which condenses to RIT over 1 over R, yes, over R like that. So we are saying it is 0.44 divided by 0.1, which is 4.4 like that. So now the new IR or the new value, the V naught, is going to be 5 plus 0.22 plus 0.24 plus 0.25 plus 0.26 plus, instead of 0.3, 4.4. How much do we have? So we have 5 plus 0.22 plus 0.24 plus 0.25 plus 0.26 plus 4.4. 4.4. 10.37. That is the new value of X company. Now, looking at another example, maybe probably even applying assumption 3. Let's see if we can be able to understand what or apply our understanding based on assumption 3. Let's make a more realistic assumption that after year 5, X's residual income will decay over time to 0 with a persistence factor of 0.4. Calculate the new intrinsic value of X. So we are saying in this case we are applying assumption 3. Come on this side right here. I might not want to wrap this value over here because these are the values that we actually need over here. So we say assumption 3. What are you saying under assumption 3? That the persistence factor will either remain between 0 and 1. So we are saying the present value of continuing Ri t minus 1 is given as Rit over 1 plus R minus W, like that. So this W, the persistence factor, lies between 0 and 1. So in this case, we've been told that the persistence factor is 0.4, so we just continue. We say that component. So here, instead of putting the 0.3, we will just say that the 0.44 discounted against 1 plus 0.1, we are over here, this component over 0.44 discounted against 1 plus 0.1 minus now the persistence factor of 0.4. 0.4, let me confirm. Yes, it is 0.4. So what happens? Now, we get 0.44 divided by, open the brackets, 1.1 minus 0.4. Close the brackets. We have 0.629. 0.629. So putting it all together, we have value is given as, we have the 5 plus, now we add all of this, 0.22, 0.24, 0.22 plus 0.24 plus 0.25, 0.25 plus 0.26, I can come on this other side over here, plus plus 0.26 plus now 0.629. 0.629, like that. So how much do we get? 5 plus 0.22 plus 0.24 plus 0.25 plus 0.26 plus now 0.629. 0.629. We get 6.599. 6.599, like that. So that is how we can be able to apply the continuing residual income based on the 4 assumptions there. So this is how we can actually be able to apply that. Now we move on and try and conclude this topic by looking at the advantages and disadvantages of residual income valuation. So advantages and disadvantages. Disadvantages of residual income. Advantages and disadvantages of residual income. So let's look at advantages. The first advantage, you can say, residual income is applicable to companies that do not pay dividends. That do not pay dividends. Unlike the discounted dividend valuation, where we must have a component of dividends, here residual income can be applicable to companies that do not pay dividends, and yet and hence there are a good number of companies which do not pay dividends, which can therefore use the residual income. Number 2, RI computation utilizes accounting data that is readily put it like this, readily available. We can be able to just surf over the internet, over the company's website, and you can be able to get information so that you can be able to compute the residual income. Those are some of the advantages of residual income. Let's look at the disadvantages of residual income. Disadvantages of residual income. Advantages of residual income. Number 1, we can say that accounting data can be manipulated by management team. Accounting data can be manipulated by management, which may pose challenges to the authenticity of accounting data. Accounting data for valuation. So this accounting data may can be manipulated, which may pose a challenge. Number 2, we say that residual income may pose some challenges, more so when applying the 4 assumptions practically there. So those are the advantages and disadvantages of residual income, and this brings us to the end of residual income valuation. We hope that you'll be able to join us for our next topic that deals with private company valuation. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to get yourself a copy of our professionally prepared study text and revision partners. Visit our shop along Tom Boyer Street, Pioneer House, 3rd floor, opposite Fire Station.